Sometimes it's easy to forget that the battle is not a physical one, but it's a spiritual one. The spiritual realities are made manifest in the physical, but the truth is, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual forces, and all that. And then in Ephesians, when he's talking about that, Paul says, therefore put on the full armor of God. And it talks about that, about after you've done everything to stand, you'll be standing. And it's a promise, but it's also a perspective. The promise is if we put on the full armor of God and we use his weapons to fight the battles in our life, the word of God, our faith, the gospel, salvation, those things that are intrinsically God, God's power, God's authority, God's wisdom, God's understanding, God's perspective. If we use those things, then we're going to be able to stand. But another thing that says, after doing everything to stand, you'll stand. And I was thinking about that, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes God says that you need to obey me when you really want to do something else. And you come to the end of your rope. I'm not sure if you've ever been there. Most of us have been to an end of our rope and say, God, I can't do this anymore. And that's where God says, okay, now stand. And we stand in the midst of our struggle. We stand in the midst of our pain. We stand in the midst of our loss. We stand in the midst of our confusion and our frustration and all those things that are seeking to distract us from the truth that God is everything, where he says, cast all your cares upon me, for I care for you. And we don't trust him. And then we do. We just say, God, okay, I'm going to trust you. And sometimes it's definitely not a feeling. It's a belief, and it is a pattern of behavior. It's living in obedience. And God, we just say, God, I'm gonna obey you. God says you'll stand. After doing everything, stand. At the end of our rope, at the end of all our strength, at the end of everything that we could ever give, God says, now watch what I'm going to do. Look at what I'm going to give you. Look how I'm going to sustain you. Look how I'm going to uphold you with my right hand. And it's when we come to the place where we recognize that we can't do anything. I think part of God bringing us to that place is to teach us how to do it when we're not in that place. When we're not in the place where we're at the end of our rope, where everything's going well, and we're still stepping back and saying, no, God, I'm going to trust in you. No matter how this turns out, I'm going to give you the glory. I'm going to give you the honor. I'm a little bit at the end of my rope with a few things. Asking God, what are you doing? What are you going to do? What do you want me to do? And God's being faithful. And even when I don't feel it, he's working. And he is. So I hope that's an encouragement to you. God bless you, and talk to you soon.